Jack had never expected to find anything out of the ordinary on this mission. A routine assignment on a distant planet, no different from the hundreds of others he'd completed before. He was a soldier, trained to navigate hostile environments, prepared for combat and always ready for the unexpected. But nothing could have prepared him for the sight that awaited him in the dense alien jungle. It happened on the third day of the mission. Jack and his team had been exploring the planet's outskirts, an uncharted area that held little interest for most of the galactic fleets. There were rumors of strange life forms, but nothing too dangerous, or so they thought. As Jack trekked through the thick underbrush, his boots sinking into the soft, wet soil, something caught his eye. Through the gaps in the trees, he saw her. She was standing there, as if she belonged in the forest itself. Her presence was so calm, so serene, it almost seemed like the world around her had paused. She was tall, with features unlike any human Jack had ever seen. Her skin was a pale shade of blue, and her long hair flowed like silver threads, catching the light of the setting sun. Her eyes, however, were what held Jack's attention. They were large, the color of deep purple, and they seemed to glow with an inner fire that made him feel like she could see straight through him. For a moment, Jack froze. He wasn't sure what to do. His heart raced, and a strange feeling washed over him, something he hadn't experienced before. It was like he had known her all his life, as if his soul recognized hers. He had seen many alien species during his missions, but none of them had made him feel this way. This was different. This was something entirely new. She stood perfectly still, not moving, not speaking. Jack's first instinct was to approach her, but he didn't want to risk startling her. He didn't even know if she could understand him, let alone communicate. Instead, Jack slowly took a step forward, trying to keep his movements calm and non-threatening. His team was a few yards behind him, too far to notice what was happening, but Jack couldn't take his eyes off her. Every step he took, he felt the pull between them growing stronger. Who are you? Jack finally whispered, unsure. If she could hear him, the alien woman's eyes flickered in his direction. For the first time, Jack saw her lips twitch upward. She didn't answer his question, but that smile, though small, made his heart skip a beat. If it was because she had recognized him, or if it was simply a response to his presence, either way, it felt like a connection. For a few moments, they stood in silence, staring at each other. Jack's mind raced as he tried to process what was happening. The alien woman was beautiful, yes, but there was something more. Her aura, the way she stood with such quiet strength, felt powerful and graceful at the same time. Suddenly, the sound of rustling leaves broke the spell. Jack turned around quickly, but when he looked back, she was gone. She had vanished into the dense trees without a sound, leaving Jack standing there, utterly stunned. "Jack, what's going on?" One of his team members, Matt, called from behind. Jack couldn't answer right away. He was still trying to make sense of what he had just witnessed. Was she even real? Had he imagined the whole thing? I saw something, Jack finally said, turning back to face Matt. Something. I don't know what. Matt looked at him curiously but didn't press further. All right, let's move out. We've got a job to do. Jack nodded, but his thoughts weren't on the mission anymore. They were on her, the alien woman with the purple eyes who had somehow, without a single word, captured his heart. As the team continued through the jungle, Jack couldn't shake the image of her from his mind. Her face was burned into his memory, and every step he took seemed to echo in his head. Was it possible? Could it really be that Jack had fallen in love at first sight? He had heard the stories. Human soldiers were famous for their ability to bond with alien species, to form alliances, and to fight for a common cause. But this was different. This wasn't about politics or war. It was personal. It was something deeper, something that felt beyond his control. By the time they returned to camp, Jack couldn't stop thinking about her. His heart felt heavy in his chest, but he didn't know why. It wasn't just fascination. It was something stronger, something unexplainable. He tried to focus on the mission, on the team, on everything around him, but his mind kept drifting back to that brief encounter. The way she had looked at him. It's a small smile that tugged at the corner of her lips. It's a quiet understanding in her eyes. That night, Jack lay in his bunk, unable to sleep. He kept thinking about the alien woman. He didn't know who she was, or where she came from, but he knew one thing for sure. She had noticed him, and that was enough. Jack didn't know what to do with this feeling. He didn't know if it was love or if it was something else entirely, but it didn't matter. He knew was that he couldn't forget her, and somehow he knew he would. Jack couldn't stop thinking about her. Every time he closed his eyes, the image of the alien woman, her deep purple eyes, her graceful movements, her soft smile would flood his mind. He couldn't explain it. There was something about her that felt different from anything he had ever known. It wasn't just her beauty. It was something deeper, something he couldn't put into words. The next few days were a blur. Jack tried to focus on the mission, but his thoughts kept drifting. Back to that brief moment in the jungle. He could feel her presence, even though she was nowhere to be seen. It was like she was always just on the edge of his vision, watching him. But when he turned to look, she was gone. Jack didn't understand it. He had seen alien species before, interacted with many during his time in the military, but none had affected him like this. None had made him feel this strange, overwhelming pull. One afternoon, as the team set up camp for the night, Jack found himself wandering away from the others. He didn't mean to, but his legs carried him deeper into the forest, following some strange instinct. He knew he shouldn't be alone, especially with the unknown dangers lurking on this planet, but he couldn't stop himself. He needed to find her. His heart raced as he pushed past the thick branches, the forest alive with strange sounds all around him. For a moment, Jack felt a sense of calm, as if the world around him had settled into quiet peace. He stopped and stood still, listening then. Just as he expected, he felt it. That feeling was like an invisible thread tugging at him, pulling him toward something or someone. He turned around slowly, scanning the trees, or standing in the shadows. Was the alien woman? She was watching him, as she had before, her eyes glowing softly in the dimming light. She hadn't moved, but it was as if she was waiting for him to come closer. Jack's heart skipped a beat, and without thinking, he took a step forward. His mind raced, but his body seemed to move on its own. Every step he took felt as if he was walking toward a part of himself he hadn't known existed until now. The alien woman's gaze never wavered. Her expression was calm, but there was a flicker in her eyes, something that told Jack she was just as aware of him as he was of her. "Why are you here?" Jack asked quietly, unsure if she could even understand his words. He felt foolish saying them, but he needed to break the silence, needed to hear something. For a long moment she said nothing. Then, in a soft, melodic voice, she spoke. "I am here because you are here." Her words were simple, yet they carried a weight to them, and because you see me. Jack wasn't sure what she meant, but something in her voice made him feel as if she had just opened a door to something deeper. He took another step closer, his heart pounding in his chest. "I saw you that day," Jack said, feeling his voice falter. "In the jungle? I don't know what it is, but I feel like I know you. Like we're meant to." He didn't finish his sentence. He didn't have to. She already knew what he meant. The look in her eyes told him that much. There was an understanding there, an unspoken connection that seemed to transcend language and distance. The alien woman's gaze softened, and for a brief moment, Jack thought he saw a trace of a smile on her lips. It wasn't much, just a flicker, but it was enough to make his heart skip again. "I am Zero," she said, her voice almost a whisper. "I am not from your world, but my people have watched yours for many years. We have seen your strength, your resilience. What you feel is not just the pull of your heart, it is the pull of destiny." Jack's mind raced. Destiny? Was she saying what he thought she was? He didn't know how to respond. Instead, he simply nodded, not trusting his voice. Zira continued, her tone still soft, but filled with a strength Jack could feel deep within. "The connection you feel is not just in your mind. It is in the stars. It is ancient. You and I. We are part of something bigger than ourselves." Jack didn't understand it fully. But he felt something stir inside him, something that made him believe her words, even without knowing why. There was a truth in them that he couldn't ignore, truth that made the strange feeling in his chest even more real. "Are we?" Jack started, but again the words didn't come out the way he intended. Zira's eyes met his. This time there was no flicker of doubt in them. "Yes, we are. But what happens next is up to you." The moment hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning. Jack didn't know what the next step was, or if he was even ready for it. He had never felt so uncertain in his life. But at the same time, he felt a surge of hope, of something new and exciting that he had never imagined. Before, "I don't know what this is," Jack admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "But I don't want to walk away from it." Zira took a step closer to him, her presence overwhelming yet comforting. She reached out, her hand hovering near his. "Then don't," she said simply, her eyes locking with his.
"You don't
have to." In that moment, Jack knew that nothing would ever be the same. He had crossed a line, one that couldn't be undone. Oh, but he wasn't afraid.
Fight!
Not anymore. The connection between him and Zira was undeniable, and whatever it was, whatever lay ahead, he knew he had to follow it. With his heart still racing, Jack stepped closer to her. Their hands finally meeting in the quiet alien forest. It was the beginning of something neither of them could fully understand yet, but Jack knew one thing for sure. He was no longer just a soldier. He was something more. He was part of something far greater than himself. And with Zira by his side, he was ready to discover what that something truly was. The days following Jack's encounter with Zira were filled with a strange mix of emotions. He couldn't get her out of his mind. Every time he closed his eyes, her face appeared, her deep purple eyes, her soft smile. Had never felt so drawn to someone, especially someone so different. His mind raced with questions, with hopes, and with a longing he couldn't explain. He spent most of his time trying to focus on the mission. The team was still exploring the planet, mapping the area, and gathering data, but Jack's attention was elsewhere. He couldn't concentrate on anything else, couldn't shake the feeling that he needed to see her again, that somehow she was the key to something far bigger than this mission. It wasn't long before Jack found himself wandering again. It was time during the quiet hours of the evening. The others were in camp, preparing for the next day's exploration. But Jack felt an irresistible pull to the forest. Had to see Zira. He needed to talk to her. The forest was alive with strange noises as Jack made his way through the dense trees, his boots sinking into the soft ground. It felt like he was walking through a dream. The air was thick with the scent of alien flowers, and the glow of the setting sun filtered through the canopy above. Jack's heart pounded in his chest as he walked, unsure of what he would say when he saw her again. He had never been good with words, especially when it came to something this personal, this intense. He couldn't ignore the pull. He couldn't walk away from it. As he rounded a thick cluster of trees, he saw her. Zira stood in a clearing, her silhouette outlined by the fading light. She was looking up at the sky, her expression soft and thoughtful. Jack hesitated for a moment, watching her from the edge of the clearing. He had no idea what to say, but he knew he couldn't stay silent. "Zira," I called out, his voice soft, unsure. Zira turned slowly, her eyes locking with his. The moment their gazes met, Jack felt that familiar pull again. The same feeling he had felt the first time he saw her. It was stronger now, more intense. As if it had grown in the days since their first encounter. "I knew you would come," Zira said, her voice calm and smooth like the sound of a distant river. "I felt you, calling to me." Jack was taken aback by her words. He hadn't said anything. He hadn't even moved toward her. Yet she had known he was coming. The connection between them was more powerful than he had realized. "I don't know what's happening," Jack admitted, his voice almost a whisper. "I can't stop thinking about you. I don't even know why." Zira took a step closer, her eyes searching his face. "You feel it too. This connection is not just in your mind, Jack. It is real. Our paths have crossed for a reason." Jack shook his head slightly, still unsure of what she meant. "But we're so different. I'm human, and you're not. I don't know how this is possible." Zara's expression softened, and she stepped even closer, her presence overwhelming yet comforting. Our differences do not matter as much as you think. The bond between us is ancient, beyond the barriers of race or species. We are connected by something much deeper than biology. Jack felt his heart race as he absorbed her words. He couldn't understand everything she was saying, but he felt the truth in her voice. It was as if, deep down, he had always known this. He had always known there was something more to life, something greater than himself, and now he was beginning to see it too, feel it. "I don't know what to do with this," Jack said, his voice trembling slightly. "This feeling, this connection, I've never felt anything like it before." Zira smiled softly, her eyes filled with understanding. "You don't have to do anything with it, Jack. You simply need to accept it. The connection is already there. It doesn't require action, only trust." Jack felt a wave of relief wash over him. He had been struggling with the intensity of his feelings, unsure of what to do next. But Zira's words gave him comfort. Maybe he didn't need to have all the answers right away. Maybe this was something he just had to experience, something that would unfold in its own time. I want to trust you," Jack said, the words coming more easily now. "I want to understand what this is, what we are." Zira's smile widened, and for a moment, Jack thought he saw something in her eyes, something soft, something vulnerable. It was a side of her he hadn't seen before, and it made his heart ache. "You are not alone in this, Jack," she said softly. "I, too, have felt the pull. I, too, am learning what this connection means. It is something I have never known before, but I believe in it." Jack took a step closer to her, unable to resist the pull any longer. He could feel the warmth of her presence, the strength in her, the quiet power that emanated from her very being. She was not just a beautiful alien woman, she was something more, something ancient and powerful. And for some reason, Jack felt that he had been meant to meet her, to walk this path with her. "I don't know where this is going," Zira Jack said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "But I want to find out. I want to see where this connection takes us." Zira reached out, her hand brushing lightly against his. The contact sent a shock of warmth through his body, and for a moment the world seemed to fade away. It was just the two of them, standing together in the clearing, connected by something deeper than either of them could understand. "Then we will walk this path together," Jack, Zira said, her voice filled with quiet resolve. "Together. We will learn what this bond truly means." Jack nodded, feeling a sense of peace settle over him. For the first time in a long while, he wasn't afraid of the unknown. With Zira by his side, he felt like anything was possible. And whatever happened next, he knew he wouldn't be alone. Jack and Zira spent the next few days in a quiet, almost peaceful rhythm. The days were spent exploring the planet, completing the mission. But Jack's thoughts were almost entirely consumed by Zira. Their connection was undeniable, and it felt like they were always just a step away from discovering something far greater than either of them could understand. Yet, despite the growing bond, Jack couldn't help but wonder, what did it mean for their future? Could something like this between a human and an alien ever work? One evening, as the sun dipped behind the distant mountains, Jack and Zira found themselves walking together in the quiet of the jungle. The soft sounds of the alien wildlife surrounded them, but the world felt still, as if everything was waiting for them to speak, to share their thoughts. Zira was unusually quiet. Her usual calm demeanor had shifted into something more thoughtful, and Jack noticed the change. She seemed distant, lost in her own thoughts. "Zira," Jack asked, his voice soft but filled with concern. "Is everything all right?" Walking and turned to face him. Her purple eyes met his, but there was a trace of sadness in them, something Jack hadn't seen before. She seemed to hesitate for a moment, as if weighing her words carefully. "I don't know, Jack," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I feel this connection between us, and I know it is real, but I fear what it could mean for both of us." Jack felt his heart tighten at her words. He stepped closer to her, trying to bridge the gap that seemed to have suddenly opened between them. "What do you mean?" I thought we both felt it." This connection. Zira's eyes flickered as she struggled to find the right words. I have never felt anything like this before. I know that my people, my race, they don't understand human emotions the way you do. I have been raised to believe in duty, in the strength of my people, but this is different, and I'm afraid. Jack's brow furrowed, and he reached out to gently touch her arm. Afraid of what? Zira? Afraid of me? Zira shook her head. No, not of you, Jack, but of what we could be. What I could be. I have never been in a relationship like this, never had emotions like this. My people are strong, independent, but we are not taught to give our hearts away. I fear that if I let myself care for you, I will lose my purpose. I will lose my focus. Could feel the weight of her words. He understood her concerns. Zira was a leader of her people, a warrior, a diplomat. She wasn't someone who could afford to show weakness. He, on the other hand, had always been taught that love and connection were what made life worth living. But for Zira, that might not be the case. Zira. I don't think you'll lose anything by caring, Jack said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. You're not weak for feeling. You're strong for allowing yourself to feel. I don't want to take anything from you, I want to share this, whatever this is. Zira looked at him, her eyes searching his face as if she were trying to understand him better. The hesitation was still there, but there was something else too, something that made Jack believe she wasn't completely afraid anymore. Needed time. I don't know how to let go of all my doubts, Zira said softly, her voice filled with regret. But I am willing to try. For you. For us. Jack felt a wave of relief wash over him. He knew that this wasn't going to be easy. There would be challenges ahead, but for the first time he felt like they were on the same path, together, even if they didn't have all the answers yet. Thank you, Jack said quietly, his voice full of gratitude. I don't expect you to have all the answers, Zira. I don't even have them. But I do know this. I want to be here with you. I want to find out what this means, together. Zira's lips curled into a small, soft smile. For the first time, it wasn't a reserved smile, the kind of smile that hid her true emotions. It was a smile of warmth, of trust. I will try, Jack. I will try to let go of my doubts. They stood in silence for a moment, the weight of the conversation hanging in the air. The jungle around them seemed quieter now, almost as if it, too, had understood the shift between them. Suddenly, the soft sound of footsteps echoed from behind them. Jack turned around quickly, instinctively reaching for his weapon. But Zira raised her hand, signaling him to stop. It is only my people, she said, her voice calm once again. They are coming to speak with us. Jack relaxed, lowering his hand. He hadn't expected Zira's people to be so close, but he knew that she was a diplomat. Her people had come to negotiate with the humans, and Jack knew their presence here could complicate things. But he was more focused on Zira now, on the fragile moment they had just shared. Do you want to go back? Jack asked, his voice a little hesitant. He didn't want to break the peace they had just found. Zira's expression softened, and she shook her head. No, Jack, not yet. I'm not ready to leave this moment. And so, the two of them stood there for a while longer. In the stillness of the jungle, allowing themselves to share a moment of peace before the world around them pulled them back to their duties. Jack didn't know what the future held, but for the first time, he wasn't afraid. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he knew one thing for sure. He wasn't facing them. The days grew darker as tensions between the human and alien forces escalated. Jack could feel it in the air, the tension, the unease. The peaceful mission they had come for had slowly begun to unravel. Now, the two races stood on the brink of war, and it wasn't just the fate of their planets at stake. It was something much more personal for Jack and Zira. Zira had been distant in recent days. Her role as a leader of her people pulling her in different directions, her duty to her. Race had always been clear, but now Jack saw the conflict in her eyes. She was torn between her people's expectations and the bond she was forming with him. Jack understood her struggle. He too was caught between duty and love. But unlike Zira, he wasn't a leader, and he didn't have the weight of an entire race on his shoulders. The two of them had shared so many quiet moments together. Moments that made Jack believe in the impossible. But now those moments seemed to be slipping through his fingers. Every time he reached out to her, she pulled away, as if something invisible kept them apart. One evening, Jack found himself walking through the camp alone, his mind heavy with thoughts of Zira. He had watched her from a distance earlier, speaking with her people, her face tight with worry. She had been trying to keep her emotions in check, but Jack could see through it. He knew she was struggling. As he walked, the sound of footsteps behind him made him pause. He turned, and there she was. Zira. She had approached him quietly, as if she, too, had been lost in thought. "Jack," she said softly, her voice almost a whisper. "We need to talk." Jack's heart skipped a beat. He had been waiting for this moment, but now that it had come, he wasn't sure what to expect. Was she going to push him away again? Or was this the moment they would finally face what had been building between them? "Of course," Jack said, trying to keep his voice steady. "What's on your mind?" Zira took a deep breath and stepped closer to him. Her eyes were filled with emotion, but there was a hint of sadness in them, something Jack hadn't seen in her before. "I cannot deny this anymore, Jack," she said, her voice breaking slightly. "I cannot deny what we share. But my people are preparing for war. There are enemies out there who threaten everything we have, and I have to lead them. I have to fight." Jack's chest tightened. He had known this was coming. Peace talks had failed, and now the galaxy was on the edge of war. Zira, as a leader of her people, had a duty to protect them. It was something she couldn't ignore, no matter how much she might want to. And Jack knew that. But hearing her say it out loud made it all too real. "I understand, Zira," Jack said, his voice quiet. "You have a duty. Your people need you. But what about us? What about this connection between us?" Zira's expression softened, and she reached out to gently touch his arm. "I wish there was more time, Jack. I wish I didn't have to leave. You like this, but the war, it's already here. I have to be with my people." Jack felt the weight of her words sink in. He had known this moment would come, but that didn't make it any easier. The bond between them had grown so strong, but now it seemed like the universe was determined to tear them apart. "You'll be all right," Jack said, forcing a smile. He didn't want her to see how much this hurt him. He didn't want her to think that his feelings would stop her from doing what was necessary. "You're strong, you're a leader. You'll do what's right for your people." Zira looked at him, her eyes filled with a mixture of pain and gratitude. "I don't know if I can do this, Jack. I don't know if I can fight this war and still hold on to what we have." Jack's heart ached as he reached out to take her hand. "You don't have to do this alone," he said quietly. "Be here for you. I don't know what the future holds, but I know that I care about you. I always will." Zira's lips parted as if she wanted to say something, but she stopped herself. For a moment, the two of them stood there in silence, each of them lost in their own thoughts. Both of them knowing that the road ahead would not be easy. "I'm afraid, Jack," Zira admitted, her voice barely a whisper. "Afraid of losing myself in all of this. Afraid of what will happen to us." Jack squeezed her hand gently. "I'm afraid too," he said. "But we can't let fear control us. We have to face it together. Even if it's only for a little while." Zira nodded, a single tear slipping down her cheek. She wiped it away quickly, as if embarrassed by the show of emotion. "I have to go. The war is already starting, and I have to be there for my people. But Jack, She paused, her eyes locking with his. "I won't forget you. I will carry you with me, no matter where I go." Jack nodded, his throat tight. He didn't want her to go, but he understood. She had a duty, a responsibility. He couldn't ask her to abandon that for him. And he couldn't let his feelings stand in the way of her destiny. "I'll always be here, Zira," Jack said quietly. "Whenever you need me." With one final lingering look, Zira turned and walked away, leaving Jack standing in the fading light of the camp. He watched her go, feeling the weight of her absence already settling in his chest. The war had come, and with it, the distance between them. Jack didn't know what the future held, but one thing was clear. Whatever happened, he would always remember Zira, and he would always love her, no matter the distance, no matter the challenges they faced. The days after Zira left were the hardest Jack had ever faced. The war had erupted quickly, faster than anyone could have imagined. Zira had gone back to her people, and Jack had remained with his unit, trying to push through the pain of her absence. Every day felt like a struggle, each moment weighed down by the knowledge that the woman he loved was out there, leading her people in a battle that seemed endless. Jack couldn't forget the promise they had made to each other, that no matter what happened, they would always be connected. But that promise felt distant now, like something fragile that could easily break under the pressure of everything going on around them, despite the growing conflict. Jack threw himself into his work. He spent his days in the command center monitoring the battle strategies, trying to make sense of the chaos. But his mind would always drift back to Zira, to her face, her eyes, and the quiet moments they had shared. He couldn't shake the feeling that their connection was still there. Even if they couldn't be together, one day as Jack was going over the battle reports, he received an unexpected message. It was from Zira. His heart skipped a beat as he opened the message. The text was brief, but it was enough to stop him in his tracks. "I'm coming to see you. I need to talk." Jack stared at the words for a long time, not sure if he was imagining things. Zira was coming to see him? In the middle of all this chaos, she was going to find him? He couldn't believe it, but he didn't care. He knew in that moment that nothing else mattered. He had to see her again. He needed to be with her. The next few hours felt like an eternity. Jack paced back and forth in his room, waiting for the moment when Zira would arrive. His mind raced with questions. What did she want to talk about? Was it about the war? Was she okay? Finally, just as the sun was setting, Jack heard the soft hum of a ship approaching. His heart leaped in his chest as he rushed out of his quarters and into the open air. There, in front of him, stood Zira's ship, its sleek design cutting through the sky as it descended slowly to the ground. The ship landed with a soft thud, and the door opened. Jack could hardly breathe as he watched Zira step out. She was different. Now her uniform was no longer the same. It was more practical, more battle-ready. She had been through so much, but her presence still carried that same quiet strength. "Zira," Jack said, his voice cracking as he stepped forward. Zira's eyes met his, and for a moment they just stood there, not speaking, not moving. Well, it was like everything around them had faded away. The war, the chaos, the struggles, all of it seemed to disappear in the space between them. "I had to see you, Jack," Zira said finally, her voice filled with emotion. "I couldn't stay away any longer." Jack's heart swelled with a mix of relief and happiness. She was here with him. Despite everything, they had found a way back to each other. "I'm glad you came," Jack replied, his voice steady now. "But why? Why come now? With everything happening, you have to be with your people." Zira shook her head slowly. "I've been with my people, Jack. I've been fighting, leading them, doing what I'm supposed to do. But I couldn't forget. I couldn't forget what we have, what we've shared. It's too important." Jack stepped closer to her, his heart racing. "But the war, ... everything is falling apart. What happens to us now, Zira? What happens when you go back to your people and I go back to mine?" Zira's eyes softened, and she reached out to touch his hand. "We can't ignore the war. A part of our worlds now, but I believe we can still have something, Jack. A bond that goes beyond everything else. A love that transcends the boundaries of our races, our duties, our worlds." Jack felt a lump in his throat as he looked at her. He had never felt more certain of anything in his life. He had loved her from the moment he saw her, and nothing, not the war, not the distance, not the differences between them, could change that. "You're right," Jack said, his voice strong now. "Can't stop what's happening around us. But we don't have to lose this. What we have, Zira. We don't have to let it go." Zira smiled, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "I don't want to lose it. I don't want to lose you, Jack. You've shown me that love doesn't have to be a weakness. It's strength. It's what keeps us fighting, keeps us going even when everything else seems impossible." Jack gently cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs brushing the soft skin of her cheeks. Then we'll fight together. Whatever comes, we face it together. Zira's smile widened, and she leaned in, resting her forehead against his. For a moment, they just stood there, wrapped. In the quiet, in the understanding that no matter what the future held, they would always have this love, this bond that had formed between them, stronger than anything the world could throw at them. I have to go back. Zira said softly, her voice filled with sadness. My people need me. But I will always carry you with me, Jack. Always. Jack nodded, his heart heavy with the knowledge that she had to leave again. But he understood. And I'll always carry you with me, Zira, no matter what happens. They shared one last lingering kiss, a promise of everything that was yet to come, a promise that even war couldn't tear them apart. As Zira boarded her ship and prepared to leave, Jack watched her go, but this time he wasn't sad, wasn't afraid, because he knew in his heart that their love would survive. No matter where they were, no matter the distance, they would always be together. Their love was a force of its own, stronger than anything the galaxy could throw